Alrighty then. Of course, the volume kicks up a bunch the second I hit the go live button, of course. Go ahead and knock that back a step. There we go. That should be fine even when it fully kicks in then. So, I opted to do just some chill stuff today because of the fact that I had been sick for like half the week. Not like major league sick, it was just a bunch of congestion, sore throat, bullshit from the weather. But it threw me off enough that I didn't want to like push in case it did actually turn into something significant. But we're back in business now. Remind me, what am I supposed to be doing to gain anything here? Level 60, walk 8,000 meters, destroy 200 things. Kill 50,000 enemies. Okay. You would think this would have been uncovered by getting Dragon's Breath Mastery done, but apparently not. So that's a thing. The bitrate's also having a bit of a time, so that's great. The internet did go down this morning before I properly got up, so there may be a bit of a rough go today as well. We'll find out. Like, this week's just apparently one of those cursed weeks where nothing goes the way quite the way I want it to. I'll go ahead and go warm up in the Haunted Caverns. Don't push myself too much right out the gate, because I haven't touched this since the last stream of it, I think. I might have played it a little bit off stream, I don't remember. Go straight into damage. Yeah, there's gonna be a variety of stuff done today, most likely. Just, this seemed like a good starting point to the day. A sensible answer would be to get health or health regeneration. Or I could spew more fire. When in doubt, more fire. All of the fire. A little bit of movement speed never hurt anybody. Now, I remember that I kept making the mistake of rushing for the talisman to gain a new skill immediately, and that left us a little under-leveled to accomplish much of anything. So I'm gonna just kind of hang out a little bit, get us a couple levels, and then head down that way. Go ahead and take some defense now. Yeah, hopefully the bitrate being not perfect isn't affecting the stream too negatively. There's admittedly nothing I can particularly do about that in a second. More damage. About the only thing I could do to potentially address the bitrate issue, if the issue is on my end, would be to, like, restart things, and while it wouldn't be the worst thing to do it now, I don't know if it would do anything, and I don't want to do all of that for potentially nothing, when it's currently working decent enough, to my knowledge. I could easily be wrong. That's more of a wishful thinking than an actual, like, yeah, I know everything's working fine. So it's always a little negotiable on that one. No one can really guarantee anything there. And I'm of course rocking the Exterminator because the Exterminator is thus far my favorite. For reasons I'm sure people can immediately guess. Oh, there we go. Now we're in the green zone. We should be okay. It just took a little bit for it to sort its life out, I guess. Which it always takes a second or two. I just was not expecting it to take a full 5 minutes for it to understand that I'm live and doing things. Astronomer orbs, why not? Yeah, go ahead and bring the orbs in closer. That's fine. I remember that being the one thing that kind of disappointed me a little bit with this, is I never found any of the special abilities particularly interesting. Ah, I have to kill things near it. Okay. So let's let them gather on in. I don't really know if I want critical hit chance. The rest of these kind of stink, so I'll take the critical hit chance in case it ends up actually amounting to anything. I'm just going to avoid killing anything that isn't in the circle, for sake of actually triggering whatever this thing does. But I don't actually know what this does. I don't remember seeing one of these before. Okay, we've got a purple thingy. What that is and what that does, I have no idea, but it's a purple thingy. And I'm always happy to acquire thingies, regardless of whether they're actually useful or not. It is thingy, therefore put in pocket. Put in pocket, take with, yes. Start making our way over to where I want to be. As I said, the skills aren't super interesting, but they are very helpful, so I do want to acquire. And thankfully, we can just kind of hold the button down and run in a direction while we're in the skeleton phase. And we'll still gain experience this way. And we're not so fast that we outrun too much of the potential experience gain from the orbs. It's like I could step back if I need to and grab some of it. We can also just get a glove later and grab the whole pile. But we are just quick enough that the skeletons have no hope of catching us. There's the menu. Yeah, that's what I thought. Base, we had 0. That's why I was not really feeling getting crit chance much, but I'm like, a little bit never hurt anybody. It might actually pay off at some point. Now that's awkward timing. Not like bad awkward timing, just like really now is the time that you show up. Radiant Aura might be the play here, because it keeps all of my stuff contained to the same, like, main zone around me. And it benefits from area bonuses just as much as everything else I have does, I think. I've just become the sun. I've got my planets orbiting me, I burn everything, and now I've got a light aura. It all works out. Sun, sun, Mr. Golden Sun, kill my enemies. We got a decent amount of attack speed at this point. Let's just go more damage, because things are starting to survive a tick of the flamethrower, so may as well just have them get immediately obliterated. Anything that does survive it will probably die to 1 tick of the burn after the fact, so it all works out. Yes, yes, you're gonna try to smash me with your mallet. Good for you. I don't know how additional attacks will work for this, but I'm interested to try. Best case scenario, it splits into a two-pronged flamethrower. Worst case scenario, it probably like double taps enemies occasionally. Either one I'm willing to get behind. And it did seem that it killed him a lot faster. We don't do physical attacks, so that's not helpful. Elven Slippers I'm not that fussed about. I think I'll take the Fire Ring and replace the Copper Ring. His critical damage doesn't help us, considering our crit rate is currently terrible. But extra burn chance is phenomenal. I don't think we have guaranteed burn, considering... Yeah, we have burn chance built into our tree as well, so that all makes sense together. They're perfectly fine and well. Burning, burning, burning everything. It's actually kind of horrendously inefficient to spin like that, I think, but it's fun. So I do it anyway. I might want dedication regeneration again. Let's take a little more cone size. At the very least, it'll make my aura bigger, which is a blessing and a curse for that aura. Because as you might have noticed, it deals its damage evenly to all enemies. So the less enemies that are in the aura, the more damage each thing will take. So technically making it smaller would actually potentially be a really good play for it, because it would then destroy anything that gets close to me. Case in point here, with the option to focus it. Scoop up the coins. I don't remember coins dropping. That might be something they added, that might be something that changed, might be something I forgot. Got, unfortunately, a lot of options on that one, so it's always a little hard to tell. Speaking of hard to tell, let me double check something, because I feel like Twitch did a stupid. No, it looks like it's fine. Okay. Just double checking, because I wasn't seeing the icon for Halls of Torment under the stream, and I had an issue the other day where it did not take the update, even though it took the title and everything, so it just left me on no category, which was weird, and, you know, definitely cause for problems. But it looks like it kept this time, so hopefully everything is fine. If it isn't, well, you know, we'll figure something out. No, life goes on and all that. And these guys are why I wanted more damage, was so that I could make sure I could press through the shields and not get hemmed in by them. Because the last thing you want is to have your movement restricted in a game like this, because you will just get destroyed. I don't really need range, so I'll take another hit of dedication health. Which you might notice is the opposite of how I played this when I was playing it for a stream the first day I was playing it. There's just the simple realization that, yeah, a little bit of health and defense is kind of necessary in a game like this, because you just cannot continuously outmaneuver your enemies, because in this game in particular, they start spawning just so many of them that you can't keep ahead of them forever. It's just not particularly possible unless you really go in on the speed, which I did not do. I think, yeah, more aura charging speed's probably a good idea. I just gotta be a little careful with that, because I don't want to blind anybody with the aura, because if it starts, like, flashing ridiculously, it's gonna get bad. I learned that lesson playing Rogue Genesia, where I ended up turning one of my abilities into a damn strobe light, and I started to hate life a little bit after that one. I'm glad I wasn't streaming that one, because I would have had to turn the screen off for that, because it was bad. Like, it might have given some people seizures, and that would have been completely unacceptable. I did message the developer about that one a little bit. Just to be on the safe side with that one. Didn't get a response. Don't know if that was a real registered concern or if it's like, this is such an edge case, it probably won't matter. Which, it is a stretch. You have to set up a very ridiculous combination of things for that result to happen. So I doubt it's an actual active issue. But never hurts to mention things like, hey, this is a thing that exists. You might wanna look at that. And it's not that I would have wanted to have that weapon nerfed in any way, just a matter of, like, maybe reduce the flash a little bit. As we all know, I'm a firm believer in accessibility options. Like, even if it's not, like, an inherent thing to the item, just, like, add a ability in the options to reduce flash on everything. Which, sure, it can be a bit of a nightmare development-wise to accomplish that kind of thing, but accessibility is wonderful. Ooh, so that's an upgrade for my aura, I think? So I want to say that's one of the ones I got enough levels that I can get the variations for it, and this is a variation. Yeah. Let's get some pickup range at this point, so I can start picking up everything that's in my giant aura of doom. Which this is kind of starting to turn into exactly the problem I was talking about, though, so I need to ease off on upgrading that a little bit. But I think this is faint enough that it's not too bad. I just would advise against focusing directly on my character during this run from this point forward. Not that there's that much to look at going on in these anyway. That's always the one minor caveat I'll put out for these kind of games, is there's not a lot to look at. It's very much a numbers game. It's all about number go burr. Which is very satisfying for me, and I know it's satisfying for a chunk of people, but I know there's also just as many people that aren't that into that. Or at the very least don't acknowledge that that's what they're interested in. Because they prefer their number go burr to be covered over with more flashy effects and things. Kind of like avoid acknowledging completely, like, oh yeah, I just want number go up. Because I feel like that's just a universal constant. Everybody wants number go up, but the way they approach getting it is different. I'm not sure I can entirely explain my thought on that one any better than everyone wants number go up. I'm not worrying about picking things up as we're actively heading towards something that'll pull all of the experience orbs to me. So there's not much point in worrying about that. It'll just be much faster if I just charge straight that way. And I just keep clearing a swath in front of myself and avoiding the poison pools. Oh, that speed up might actually be kind of dangerous. We'll just have to make the best of that. There we go. Give me all of the experience. Yeah, some more power for my orbs wouldn't be bad. It's gonna take a little bit for all the experience to get to us. It also doesn't pick up any future experience, just anything that was already on the ground will come to us. It's kind of interesting how I keep having these competing ideas here. I'm increasing the area size, but I'm also shrinking it. Yep, there's level up 500 times. Not in this run, of course. We're only level 34. To my knowledge, those damage ups are across-the-board damage ups. So they are very, very useful. It's actually somewhat more productive, I think, to attack all the enemies around me and then let the aura deal damage to him. I could potentially make that work. I'm trying to get a damn necklace, though, and we're not getting one. I do want the ruby circlet. I don't think I'll use it right now, because we're indulging in the attack speed a little too much for that to be a practical swap. But we can head over to the well here and drop off the ruby circlet, so I'll always have it. And this way I don't lose the benefit of it. Because for those that don't know, that's one of the main gimmicks for this, is you have to drop the equipment items you're wearing one at a time off into wells in order to be able to retain them for future runs. If you don't do that, you don't get to keep it. It's as simple as that. There we go. Most of the things in my aura will now get picked up. So I can also use the giant death aura as a means of measuring my pickup range. I'm gonna deal with the spear horde behind me just because they're worth a lot of experience, and I don't want them to keep following me around. Here's the well. We send that off, and then the well keeper will have it for us in the hub area, and we can buy it off of him when we get back. It is going to take a lot of gold. Most of them take thousands of gold to buy, and that one in particular will probably be like an 8K if I had to put a guess as to the value of it. Now I'm getting to a comfortable move speed. Because I never like being slow. I don't know about anybody else, but I would prefer to have a decent move speed on any character type. If I feel sluggish, I'm just not happy. That's just one of those things. Because no matter how tanky or powerful a character is, I always feel like I need a means of escaping a situation. And move speed's usually a safe escape option. Because you don't need to worry about cooldowns, you don't need to worry about timings. Just like, nope, I'm just gonna walk away from the worst of my problems, and everything is good. But you know, it's not a guaranteed solution, it's not a... oh yeah, you'll just never die because you can't be caught up to. Because, you know, even in a game like this, you'll get hemmed in by numbers of enemies. You'll get shot by these projectile-throwing guys. You'll have to fight bosses that you have to deal with, so you can't just run away from them. Yep, there's our 1 million fire damage. I think I always used to forego health regeneration in particular. I want to say that was a thing I kept doing kind of wrong. As long as I keep burning the majority of things around me, I think we'll be okay, because I don't think they can penetrate the shield otherwise. I'm not going to get more aura charge speed because of the fact that it's going to start getting real blinky and annoying. Yeah, this variation of damage doesn't affect the other things, but it's still 10 base damage, which I feel like we need. Because we're starting to have trouble keeping the crowd at bay. There's 50,000 skeletons. Though the Steam achievement said 40,000. So there's a bit of a disagreement there, which is interesting. Can you aura radius and damage then? Now, as is just the way of summer around here, there is another storm coming. It's not a major storm. It's probably just gonna boom and bang a little bit and be annoying. But it is going to most likely give me a headache again and all that fun stuff, so buckle up for that. For those wondering why the flamethrower is going crazy some of the time, and other times it moves at a more natural pace, it's the 50% you see over on the right there is from our headpiece. The more we kill, the faster our attack speed goes. And since we are constantly killing like crazy right now, we're at constant 50% boost to attack speed. Thus meaning we are able to generate a constant gout of flame. Which is going to save our life, because as you can see by the number of enemies appearing now, we kind of need that. The aura's not going to be able to hold them back anymore. It'll do well at covering my back, as will the orbs, but it's a lot. There we go, Dragon's Breath. That'll pair well with the fire damage bonuses I have, which is what I was looking for from the beginning, but it just wasn't showing up. There we go, walk 8,000 meters in one run. Because I've been just kind of dancing around, we didn't walk a lot necessarily, but it worked itself out either way. And when I'm done with this one, there is another game like this that went to 1.0 not long ago? Relatively not long ago, that I want to look at again. So we'll probably jump to that one before jumping to something maybe more active, depending on how people are feeling and who shows up today. And of course how I'm feeling by that point as well. There's always that variable. There we go. We are clearing decently, especially whenever Dragon's Breath kicks in. Really, he cleans out a crowd. Just very hard to tell sometimes what's doing the best out of the bunch here. I feel like the orbs aren't really contributing much anymore. Mostly because they're not getting a chance to. Is anything that gets within orb range, I'm usually panic flicking the mouse in that direction to get rid of it with the flamethrower. These are calming down a little bit. Ah, that's why I switched to slimes. Every section of time, it switches from one wave type to another, basically, is how this works. We had the dog wave, which was very, very pressure heavy. They just swarm in on you. Slime wave takes a little bit to kick in by comparison. But as you can see, their numbers are no less on that. They just don't rush in because that's not how their pattern works. Now we've got mini dogs and green slimes. As you saw earlier, green slimes are a problem because they leave acid. So I might just stand in place for a little bit here and engage Pinwheel again. Just make sure to cover whatever direction the swarm's rushing in from. As you can see, I'm kind of surrounding myself with acid here. I can't really make that much in the way of moves until that goes away. But we're also surrounded by big experience, which is good. And that's not counting all the experience we're picking up. The attack speeds that I'm picking up that are for Dragon's Breath specifically only affect Dragon's Breath. But that's also why we're throwing waves of fire, like, constantly now. Because I believe the Crown's attack speed does affect it. It's a little bit more pickup range, because that just allows me to scoop this all out of the acid. Give me a little more health, because I'm pretty confident I'm going to need more health to beat the boss of this stage. Because I've yet to beat any of the bosses in this game. I usually end up fighting them and then running out of time. Because there's more or less a time limit on the boss fights in this game. If you can't clear them quick enough, you just lose. I don't know if they got rid of the Doom timer or not. I know there was discussion about them getting rid of it. I would be very happy if they did, because I, as I've mentioned many times on stream, am one of those people that really hates arbitrary timers. I don't like being rushed. I would rather sit there and take the time to think. Or if I'm gonna rush like an idiot, I want it to be my choice to rush like an idiot instead of being forced into it. Another boss down. Wood I don't need. I don't really need any of these. This is the only one I don't have, but the well's already been used, so it's not like I'm gonna get rid of it anyway. Because I believe there's only one well per stage, because there's no marker for another one. There might be an upgrade where you can get more of them or something. No. I don't know. All I know is the Ruby Circlet is something I wanted to retain, because it basically gives me the option of going for a completely different build for this guy. So I can just go hard in on burning effect chance and such, instead of going for pure damage. At this point, probably some more health regen. Wow. We hit the 1 million and the 3 million fire damage in one run, just in this run alone, apparently. Huh. That's just... That splotch is stuck there, but it's above where my character renders as well, which is fascinating. That might be a thing they might want to fix. It's not an important one, but it's just weird that splatter is rendering over everything. Like, that's definitely not in the this is important list of things. That's just a, huh, that's weird. I think this one is still in early access, though. Wow, I got 50,000 crits in this somehow. I mean, I guess when I'm hitting this constantly, crits are inevitable a bit. As long as there's any crit rate at all. And I did see a few go off. Okay, we're almost to the 5-minute mark for the run. Because that timer on the bottom right is ticking down to when the boss shows up. Ooh, this is an easy one for this setup. This one can be very difficult sometimes, but since we have a lot of area damage and just constant attack, it's easy. This is just where we feed. We feast on their bones. Whatever bones aren't burnt to a crisp, anyway. We could just Pac-Man through them. Look at this. You know, Pac-Man had a flamethrower, which... That'd be a whole different deal, wouldn't it? Pac-Man with a flamethrower. Huh. guess it would have to be just instead of a power repellent, he just picks up a flamethrower. How would a flamethrower affect ghosts? I guess it wouldn't, would it? Huh. Yep, there's the 1 million damage with Dragon's Breath, so it's Dragon's Breath 2, done. Which a bunch of those challenges do actually have benefits. That's how you unlock some items and things like that. And a few special skills unlock from those too, so you do want to do them. And if equipment and skills don't intrigue you, characters also unlock from some challenges. So that probably is the last thing that'll compel you on that one. Hey, there's Xeno. Welcome to me burning everything.
Meep, meep.
Just a nice relaxed stream today because of the whole sickness and all that. Seeing if I'm up to the task of streaming again. I wish I had more speed, yeah. I have lots of attacking speed, just not moving speed. There we go. They're giving me a lot of crit chance now, so I guess I'll keep taking it. Just critical flame. Everything burns. Yeah, everything I pick in that menu stays. Is until this run ends. That's all calculated here on this screen over here. Like right now, our flamethrower's done most of the damage. Dragon's Breath's already caught up, even though that was the last thing we picked up. The actual burn effect is also calculated separately, so we can tell how much our burn chance is actually helping us. The orbs, as I thought, are not doing much of anything. But how are you doing, Xeno? That's not good. But at least you're able to rest and, like, sort that out without it being a problem. Ah, okay. That would do it. There's level 60 Exterminator. Yeah. Especially if it's one of those moments where it's kind of close-ish to a panic attack. I can see how that would happen. There we go. We got another piece of a purple thing. I still don't know what those do, but I'm going out of my way to find them because if I find them, then I figure out what they do, presumably. 25,000 enemies in one run. I'm trying to get a bunch of upgrades for the orbs now so they'll actually do something. It's a good thing I'm immune to my own fire, because I can just, like, walk through this wall of fire and take it with me. It may not seem like it, but I am actually focusing a bit on what I'm doing here, in case people wonder why sometimes I get a little quiet. Because I have to sit there and do a quick calculation of, like, can I actually get out of this situation if it gets bad? It's like, well, maybe. Yeah. I could just constantly spew nonsense, but I feel like having it be slightly more meaningful than the entire time is probably better either way. More attack speed because we are starting to fall behind their spawn rate a little bit. So a bit more pickup range wouldn't have been bad either. There we go, 1.5 million with the Radiant Aura. There's also only so much to talk about when I'm just killing the same thousands upon thousands of things. Oh, there's the actual little boss. Which, thankfully, with the way Radiant Aura works, it's going to do a lot of damage to him. I just need to not die while keeping him in aura range. And yeah, it looks like they did remove the timer because I don't have a skull over my head. The only timer I have is my ability to survive this fight. It used to be there'd be like a skull with a 30 or so, I think it was, next to you when you start the boss fights. And you'd have to kill them before that timer ran out. Which was brutal. Which is why they fixed that, I guess, because I take it a lot of people had a problem with that. It was doable because I saw people actually completing runs. But it took stacking to kind of horrific numbers sometimes. There we go. Lord of Pain defeated. They definitely made that a bit easier then. Not having the timer was a huge difference for me. We got an upgrade for Sacred Flame. We got the... I think that's the higher difficulty for the Haunted Caverns. We got the ability to start getting revived instead of just dying straight up. Jade Amulet, weapon proficiency unlocked more. Nice. We'll do a run as the Swordsman now. How much would it take to get the Echoing Band that I want? No. Buy both of those. Because that also gets the Wellkeeper challenge done. Oh, that's why I didn't have those yet. Right. Is for some reason these weren't unlocking quite right, and now as soon as that triggered, all of these triggered in line, and that's why we had a pile of money. Okay. We still didn't kill quite enough enemies to get the Rat Ring and the last Exterminator quest. That's a pity. We still didn't quite get to the 2 million to unlock the Incineration and Agony traits. Oh well. Now, what do I need for the Swordsman still? Deal a lot of ring damage weapon. Blah, blah, blah. Ring blade weapon damage. Deal lots of sword damage. Kill 10 bosses. Reach level 60. And recover 2000 HP in one run. Okay. I can do that. That's not unreasonable. Most of this is going to be a little too expensive for us to get, but we can get an extra rank in defense to make the swordsman more likely to live. Let's see. We'll go ahead and get rid of the critical damage and take the Echoing Band, because that'll mean that we get extra splashes off of our physical attacks, which is gonna be huge for him. Yeah, I need to keep that movement speed up. Yeah. Since we beat the boss here, we may as well go on to the next stage. As you can see, the swordsman's whole thing is he just throws cones of damage forward, representing him swinging his sword. And with the echoing band, that's why you sometimes see a little circle appear out where I'm hitting the enemies. I'm hoping that that'll chain well enough that it'll keep me alive for a bit. Because the Ember Grounds are significantly more dangerous. Hey Flora, how it goes? Okay, we're gonna want a little more attack speed though. Some crit chance. So I think he starts with a little bit? Yeah, he starts with 10%, so now we have 15. Because the entire stat line's different from character to character. And I certainly don't remember all of the stat lines off the top of my head. Especially since that I don't have all of the characters unlocked yet either. Or I don't think. Honestly, there's one or two more that I don't have. Because I believe one of them is behind the cleric. I need to do a lot more magic damage with the cleric to get the sorcerer, I think it is. Which is one I am very interested in getting, but it's just been troublesome. More range, more critical damage. That's great to hear. Both that the runs went well, and you who met somebody new who that worked out. Some much needed armor, eh? I would have spent more time on learning in that mod, but I got sucked into Xenonauts 2 since it came out right in time for when I wasn't feeling well, so I didn't stream, so I ended up having the whole day to spend on that, and then I spent the rest of yesterday on it, basically, as well. More or less ran myself out of the early access content, it almost feels. So I might have overdone it a little bit. Why did that fly that way? Interesting. Oh, it's leaving a trail of gold. Neat. That's also new. I don't remember those being a thing before. It seemed like a weird one, yeah, which is what caught my eye. So I feel like the automation from Fracking Universe will probably pair well with that because of the fact that you can pull so much essence from things you can just generate a lot of, I may suspect. It would just require working it around. Because on its own, I feel like that essence mechanic would probably start to have enough of a demand on resources that it would get kind of annoying. Well, yeah, that's not surprising. There's gonna be issues. There's gonna be things that don't quite work together. That's just expected. Especially with what we already talked about with that. Right. My theory was that you could refine things using that and then take it through and run it through the essence extraction, but not the other way around. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of expected. And honestly, it's probably for the best that it is a totally separated system. Because if it was all just one giant connected set, it would kind of get a little too much and out of hand, I would say. With it being separate, it kind of becomes its own thing to dive into to take a break from the mechanics of the other one. At least that was the theory in my head for why I wanted something like that as well as the other one. That I have no answer for yet because I didn't get to those. But I wouldn't be overly shocked. Considering that's more or less how I felt about a lot of vanilla planets too. It felt like they weren't worth much of anything. That does seem a little too narrow, yeah. They probably could have at least doubled up on an ore on a planet and then reduced the amount of planets they added. Right. Which in this case, being in line with vanilla is a blessing and a curse. I didn't care for it either, as we discussed before, which is why I never really played Starbound that much after learning it a bit. I'm like, I'm kind of done with this now. That also explains why the modding scene is so prevalent and so popular for that game, is because it kind of needs it. That would make a degree of sense, and it's also more magic-based rather than technologically based, so that may appeal to people as well. I don't really need the Firewalker boots with this setup. I guess I'll take the Necromancer's band, but that's gonna mean having... Oh. Now, I'll take the Necromancer's clutch and then put it into the well, I think. Because I don't need it with this setup, but I do want it. Okay. The weapon options it offered that I saw seemed interesting as well. But as long as it offers some, like, meaningful combat at situations, it still has some benefits. It being a slow burn is also not exactly a problem. considering you could dive into all of that while you're waiting for Fracking Universe stuff to work its way through. It ends up being like a time-passing option. Let's go get us some more skills going, because right now we're not exactly powerful. And these needles ain't it. They're helpful, but they're not impressive. Okay, Purple Flame Boys are not gonna be great. This is a thing. I forgot about them, / they weren't here before. Ah, that sure wasn't here before. Don't like that either. Don't like that. Big McGoop pile is a problem. Damn it. Well, I guess I'll take the Arcane Splinters. Really getting the short end of the stick on skills this time, because I don't want to just take the same thing I had before. Oh, it didn't die, it just shrank. Great. That's exactly what I wanted. Yep. Okay, that's how this plays out then. Okay. On the bright side, we got another skill, and maybe we'll get the Ring Blade that I'm looking for. Yes, we did. Excellent. Because I need to do Ring Blade damage to unlock more of his things. Get rid of the other special enemy. And everything is back under control. Everything is fine. Oof. Duration will help a little bit, actually, because it'll make the Arcane Splinters stick around longer and the Ring Blade fly a bit further, I believe. Yes, I want that because I need to clock a lot of damage with those blades. Yeah, that's to be expected. I would be very surprised if any of those ended up being just a straight positive response at all. There's going to be negatives to anything like that. And it may be that when I sit down and actually really look at it myself, I may have a very different reaction. And we may be able to put our heads together and actually realize things that make that work out better. Maybe we won't. Who knows? Hard to say. The bright side is it's not pivotal to anything in particular, so if we end up not liking it that much, we don't even need to remove it. We can just ignore it. It's possible that you might be a bit too used to how comfortable you are with how Fracking Universe works, and that might be why that seems bad. Or, you know, since I haven't done it, I don't know this, but that's the only thing I can think of other than it actually being bad, which is possible. I'm not going to say it isn't possibly just very grindy. That is a possibility. Because once you're used to a certain pace, everything that isn't on that same pace could feel very bad. I've definitely noticed that in a few things myself. And I say that not to defend the mod, just to play a bit of devil's advocate since we don't have anything for the other side as of yet, as it were. want the other skill, and then I'm gonna go get the vacuum to get all of these little odds and ends into my pocket. What series would that be, Zeno? Flameworms? Yeah, that would make sense. Being kind of funneled is not ideal. Ah, okay. I'm not up on any TV shows or anything, so I won't be able to answer one way or the other whether that's the correct name. All things like that are relative either way, because bear in mind, I don't think I've watched an active TV show in the past, like, 8 years. So if it's older than that, maybe I would recognize it, but if it's in between those 8 years, I probably don't know it, aside from hearing the name and hearing a few things about it at some point. Because I've heard many odd and end about TV shows, so I know some things about a lot of things, just I've never actually sat and watched any of them. Okay. I think I have heard that title before. That's what I was figuring, Flora, is that they might have been able to condense it based on your description. It's also possible... I don't know how long that mod's been out. So it may be that it's still early enough on that they're going to add more to each of those and they just overscoped. They wanted to get them to exist, but they didn't actually flesh them out yet. Because I've definitely seen that happen with a lot of both games and mods. Okay, that would be past the point in where I had, you know, it would be before I stopped watching TV at all. I still don't recognize it specifically. I feel like I did see it around, but I don't think I ever actually watched it. So I can definitely say that for a lot of shows. Because even when I still watched TV at all, I didn't watch it much. I was usually doing one thing or another, so I never like actively watched TV. Lightning strikes, transfixion. I like lightning strikes. There we go, there's Ember Dominator 1. Goes to show how often I've been in the Ember Grounds successfully. Ah, that explains why you were watching it again. That makes sense, yeah. I have a TV, but it's being used as a monitor. So, you know, basically don't really have a TV. Since it is not used as such. Yeah. It's entirely possible this might be one of their first mods as well. I haven't dug into their background or anything. It's entirely possible that this is like an artist who decided to use a mod as their vehicle by which to show what they can make. Yeah. Which if they can put their designs together with something Which actually, yeah, that could be a thought. If both sets of them put their heads together, they probably could make something incredible. That's basically the two halves of what would make a good team. As long as they could get along at all. What's the damage on my ring blades doing? Not great. That is unsurprising, because the damage is getting split a lot now, because we have a lot of abilities. And our basic attack is carrying a lot of the weight. I was kind of hoping the physical... Yeah, the physical damage from the ring blades is counting into that. Yeah. I can say with like 80% certainty that they built it off of vanilla rather than anything else. That's where the majority of mods for games like that will come from. They'll be built off of the original existing system, and some people, like that team for Fracking Universe, went the extra mile and rebuilt their whole own system. Rebuilding their own system is very uncommon, because it is a lot of work. And more often than not, if a mod maker is going to go to that step, they usually just make their own game. Which I would be willing to bet... Actually, no, because there's a lot of unique assets in Fracking Universe as well. I was gonna say it might be that they made it within Starbound because they couldn't necessarily make their own game. But with the amount of assets added, I guess it would just be the engine itself that they needed? Just like logicking out why they made such an extensive mod rather than making something unique. But then again, attachment to the game itself might also be a factor. I don't really need or want this helmet, but I guess I'll put it in my pocket. Yeah, I was just trying to picture in my head, it's like, no, there's not much in the way of art that's used from the game in the assets for that. That was the theory I was working off for a second there, and then I remembered, no, that's not true. So it makes you... I always wonder with these huge mega mods, what drove them not to make it a whole separate thing. And it usually comes down to engine. They don't want... They either can't or don't want to make their own whole new engine to run a game in. It is, but it isn't. There's a lot of trade-offs in there, or I would figure. There's a lot of people that will toss you a little bit of money for your mod, but not give you as much as they would if you made an actual game. Yes. That is a whole other thing. Because the market for a very extensive mod usually generates from where a game failed. Like, it's usually a case of people see huge potential in a game, but it doesn't reach it, which is what drives people to look for mods, in a lot of cases. Or they love the game so much and want more, but the developers aren't giving them more. Those are the two cases usually where people go in looking for mods. That I wouldn't know anything about, because I've never dug into the engine. But I know you've worked on it, so I know you know what you're talking about with that. And I can imagine that that's a terrible engine design and flaw to have. And it would certainly explain some of the odd things I've seen happen with that game. Which, that's another thing. For the type of game that it is, that game's performance is kind of tragic, honestly. In terms of, on a technical aspect. Yeah, exactly. Like, I've played a wide enough variety of things of a similar type that I can tell when things are not right with how things move and act and respond. I may not have the technical know-how to know entirely why, but I can definitely tell. Yeah, that sounds about right. Considering the issues I had with it back when I first played it, when I was playing on something much weaker with very middling amounts of RAM versus now, where even now it has issues now and then. Because it clunks along. For no other reason than that engine was an interesting choice. Which I would assume it stems from a limitation of technical know-how on the part of the people that originally made the engine, probably. But, you know, there's always going to be limitations. There's going to be issues, there's going to be limitations. That's just the nature of development. And I may sound a bit harsh towards Starbound, but it's because it was something I genuinely looked forward to very, very strongly, and then was resoundingly disappointed. I can count on one hand the things I was that resoundingly disappointed about, and that is definitely one of them. See, without knowing exactly what aspect of that is getting you that way, which there's not really a way we're going to be able to discuss that cleanly in this format that we're in right now, and achieve a satisfying answer. And I also need to have my hands on it enough myself to come to a better understanding. But I might be able to give you an answer on that once I have actually spent the time with it. There's a lot of good automation out there, I just don't know which aspects of it are hitting quite right with that for me to make a comparison. Yeah, and that's kind of the one downside I'll say to that, is for somebody who doesn't have all of the time in the world because I'm working on too many things at once, almost perpetually, it does take a little too long to get going. And that's what I was questioning about the grind you were talking about before with the other one. It's like, well, they're both pretty slow to get going, so I'm not sure if that's necessarily that strong a comparison. But I also, like I said, haven't really sat there with it particularly, so I can't say that. I assume you've been a major part of the feedback on that, so that would make a degree of sense. And it having a slow start isn't necessarily the problem. I can't really put into words what I'm thinking with that right now, because my mind isn't focused on it, because I don't have it in front of me. Well, yeah, that's always going to be a thing, is if somebody finds a way to expedite everything, then a developer that doesn't like that's going to hard-nose the other way, and it makes it a problem for everybody else. That is a facet that I could understand there. In some of the way that works, I could definitely see that happened. Though I will also say that I feel a bit of a disjunction between how some of the varying systems in Fracking Universe work as well. I feel like some of it's not as coherent as they might want to think it is. And I feel like some of those trees are kind of redundant. Yeah, I would absolutely see that, yeah. The thing is, though, there are ways to expedite the research speed because of all the quests that give research and everything, so I haven't really felt like I've been being held back by the research value that much. So I don't think that's gotten that out of hand, but again, comparing to somebody who's trying to speed run through it, then yeah, it's probably immensely slow. Oh, by comparison with that. I'm just ending up chasing too many disparate parts in different directions because there's so many options to look at that I'm not rushing straight through the materials available. Otherwise, I probably would have had everything available to me by now. And there's a certain lack of coherence. Yeah. There's a certain lack of coherence to how you initially get your first bit of fuel as well. That's the one thing I feel like they kind of didn't explain particularly. Either that or I missed it because I was multitasking when I was doing that. I don't have a problem with the trees. I feel like they're fine. They could be condensed better, but the idea of them existing is fine. Because it gives people something to work for rather than, oh yeah, you just grab all of the materials and oh, well, I guess you have all of the progression forever already. Well, guess I got nothing left to work for now. But I feel like that's two very different schools of thought at play there. Also, we're probably gonna die here, because I'm not really sure how to deal with this worm thing in any good way, because it keeps digging under the ground and I can't hit it. And every time I try to go for it, I'm getting swarmed. We don't have enough area coverage with this setup. Yeah, I can see why you would, but at the same time, since it's here to stay, you may as well just adapt. Given the nature of the people working on that, I don't think you'd be able to convince them to change their mind on that one at all. There we go, there's the ring blade. 8 damage. Yeah, there's going to frequently be design and philosophy conflicts between the player base and modders as well, because modders usually end up building a niche within a niche, essentially. And I say that not as a negative thing. Before anybody takes that as a negative statement, it is not. But you are inherently going to build a niche within a niche if you're building something within something that exists. No matter how in line with vanilla you end up being with it, there is going to be aspects of your design philosophy that do not match the design philosophy of the original creators. That's just one of those things that's kind of a fact. And it's going to end up varying whether the developers of a mod lean into that niche, or if they try to, like, bring it back into line. The problem is, you have no good way of knowing what the actual design philosophy of the developers are, because you are not them. See, I don't know if I entirely agree with that statement, but I feel like that's because I'm still adjusting to it is partially the thing with that one. Because I feel like I have less direction in that because of the fact that it's just so scattered in so many different directions with what the trees are trying to accomplish all at once. More of an identity, I would agree, but direction I'm mixed on. But it might be a phraseology situation on that one, where what you mean by direction and what I'm thinking you mean by that are two different animals. I don't feel any more guided in what I'm doing by the setup for Fracking Universe than I do by Starbound itself to begin with. See, and that's the thing, is until you reach that later bit, it's so scattered that it doesn't help that statement. We're coming at it from two very different perspectives right now of how it actually works, because I'm still in the muddy part at the beginning where it just doesn't make a lot of sense and doesn't have a particular direction at all. It's just scattered shit everywhere. And again, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, just it does not feel particularly directed at all at that stage of the game. I feel like they could make the early game a lot more coherent, and that would help them immensely. I would also say it's a bit of a gamble whether people even realize to use the little tablet thing they give you to access those quests in the first place. I can definitely say that I very frequently forgot to right-click to access that whole quest line that's in the right-click menu of that tablet, because I'm not sure why it's in that menu. I feel like that could have all been one menu instead of needing 2 clicks. That one just keeps throwing me on a regular basis with that one. That's another one of those things that kind of lends to the scattered feel I have, is there's so many needlessly nested menus in that setup. This is going really poorly. There's way too many enemies now. Right. See, and that's another thing, is I don't have the comparison of earlier patches of it. I just have the experience of current existence. And from the sound of things, earlier patches would have been more in line with what I would have wanted. But I am still very interested in continuing with it. It's just a matter of I've got to actually sit down and spend the time. Oh wow, we actually lived to see the finale of this one, huh? That's surprising. I didn't think I was doing that well. So here's a food for thought question. Is it better because it suits your specific purposes better, or is it better as a general purpose better? That's definitely an interesting question there. There, I feel. Okay. Seeing that, it telling me to build the things isn't why I was saying I feel scattered to too many directions. Because the simple fact of the matter is all of those trees are right in front of you, right out the gate. So building what's in front of you can very easily end up being building some of all of that anyway. That's why I was trying to understand what you meant there, because I had a feeling our thoughts with that were slightly different. I have no problem with them having all of the quests pointing you in a lot of different directions. That's fine, because that helps give you a starting point in each of the lines. And it's not like they force you to take those. I just think there's too many trees, and half of them kind of fall into the same lines. So I feel like they could cut the number of trees in half, and it would work better. It's like, I feel like the engineering and the weapons and armor trees, for example, are kind of redundant with each other a little bit. Especially since a bunch of them have the same costs, more or less, and it's not like those things cost the materials anyway. So it just seems kind of pointless. That's more where I'm running into an issue with it. It just feels bloated. Much like you were saying that the number of planets in Arcana is bloated. They have the same problem on different angles. And I would not actually be too surprised if they're both for similar design logics of padding out the amount of time it takes to get things done. But I'm willing to give the Arcana team benefit of the doubt because we don't have information guaranteeing that yet. I would be just as inclined to think that they are just making lots of space for them to fill in. And it may be that there's supplementary stuff being made to fill in those spaces as well that we don't know about. This guy is taking a very long time to die and not accomplishing a lot in killing me. Which is why I'm just like in full mind wander off to this concept right now. It's like, I don't have to pay attention to what I'm doing with this guy here. He just keeps spawning more and more of these things that I've just left behind over there. But my damage is currently not great, which is why it's taking forever for him to die, I think. I wonder if I'm just being slightly smarter, or if they've made this game easier. So I did not expect to have back-to-back runs make it to the Lord of an area. That makes sense. Feature creep is definitely a thing, and if they wanted to just keep adding more and more and more, then inevitably, yeah, you'd reach a point where there's too much. And that's coming from somebody who is all about making a game have more and more and more and more and more and more content, because I'm all about excessive amounts of content, but there comes a point where some of it does feel completely pointless. And that is the point where you need to sit and reflect on whether you even needed to make half of those things, and whether you should remove them or not. Yeah, that's the other one. Like, a lot of the engineering, weapons and armor, and geology all could have been one tree. Chemistry, agriculture, and... well, yeah, chemistry and agriculture could have melded into one tree as well. I feel like that could have been fine. I'm not sure what other trees would necessarily merge off the top of my head beyond that. Damn it. I thought that would curve sooner than that. It's probably for the best, though, because that fight was taking forever. We did get the Warlock, though, which is what I was looking for. I thought it was tied to the Cleric. At least I think this is the one I was looking for. Want to look in here. Catcher, Hasten Might. I don't see the one I was looking for there. So maybe this is the one I wanted, maybe this isn't, I don't know. We'll find out. Yeah. That is definitely true. The fact that the craftsmanship tree is just a lot of cosmetics. I feel like the cosmetics could just be benefits gained by gaining the material. Like, they should just be side effects of the geology unlocks. Yes, that means a lot of things unlock by clicking one thing, but boo-hoo, that's fine. As long as it doesn't crash the game. Okay, we do have the Forgotten Viaduct now. I probably shouldn't be going into this with a new character, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm of mixed feelings about gating the cosmetic stuff, because it does give the build of your base a bit of a sense of progression, which I know some people would like. So I'm not opposed to that. Yeah, exactly. That's why I was saying it would be logical for it to unlock by the unlocking of each of the materials being smeltable in the geology setup. This way, it's still gated, but in a way that doesn't add extra steps. Very much a they can have their cake and eat it too situation. I'm not disagreeing with it not being locked at all, I'm just offering that as a compromise option. If it were me, I wouldn't bother with gating cosmetics at all, particularly. But I see this as a middle ground option where both sides would be relatively happy. See, there is the one caveat to that where I could see some people getting confused by that. When a whole pile of things unlock when they pick up something, they may start looking for the crafting stations in there and getting confused why they're not there, which leads to a whole problem. I think it being all guaranteed to not come from you picking things up. Yes, I'm aware that that's the original vanilla system. I'm saying having both in play at the same time would confuse people. It's better being all or nothing as far as that goes. And I don't know how that works from an engine perspective either, whether having both at the same time would cause unintended issues as well. I'm not saying that your idea isn't probably better on the whole, and I certainly wouldn't mind it that way, but I'm just pointing out the potential issues. And I don't know if those are valid or particularly useful issues. Yeah, I completely agree that it does not need to be its own tree. That is a waste. They literally put that there as a point sink for people. Thank you for the resub, Tiny. And welcome to a lot of Starbound debate while I sit here and throw ghosts at things. Because we're basically in like pseudo-podcast mode while I play something like this. I just walk around and chat shit while I throw things. And I don't think this was the character I was looking for. Yeah, that's what I'm assuming these weird green apparition shapes are that I'm throwing. They look like ghosts, they move like ghosts, they spook like ghosts. The skeletons are from an item, but they're helpful too. Especially when I get that spear skeleton who's just yo-yoing back and forth. Yeah, I could see it working as like an upgrade to the word working bench as well. Just some way to keep it from getting to be information overload for people. Especially over something that has no physical purpose. Because remember, not everybody can filter things out when it's presented to them. So if they get presented too much information,